What's up, guys? Welcome back to Book Demystified. I'm really glad you're here because today's book, The Art of Frugal Hedonism by Annie Raser-Rowland, dives into something we've all experienced but rarely talk about. You know that feeling when you're scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m. looking at someone's vacation photos from Bali, and suddenly your own life feels small, like you're missing out on all the good stuff because your bank account looks more like a countdown timer than a foundation for fun? Yeah, I've been there too. We all have. Here's the thing though. What if I told you that some of the happiest, most fulfilled people I know are also the ones spending the least money? Not because they're cheap or miserable, but because they figured out something the rest of us are still learning. They've cracked the code on what actually makes life enjoyable. And spoiler alert, it's not what the advertisements want you to believe. Why does this keep happening in our lives? Why do we keep chasing expensive fixes for problems that money can't actually solve? And what if there's a real answer we've been missing all along? Well, this book has something powerful to say about that, and honestly, it might just change how you think about what it means to live well. Annie Raser-Rowland isn't some financial guru telling you to eat ramen for 5 years so you can retire early. She's an artist and writer who stumbled onto something beautiful. The idea that pleasure and frugality aren't enemies, they're actually best friends. And before you roll your eyes and think this is another just be grateful for what you have lecture, hear me out, because what she's talking about is way more interesting than that. Picture this. You're walking through Target on a random Tuesday, and somehow you end up in the checkout line with a cart full of stuff you didn't even know you needed 20 minutes ago. A decorative pillow that's supposedly going to transform your living room, some fancy face mask that promises to make you glow like a Kardashian, maybe a kitchen gadget that's going to revolutionize your meal prep game. You know the drill. But here's what Raser-Rowland figured out. We're shopping for feelings, not stuff. We're trying to buy our way into a better version of ourselves, and it's not working. The first big idea she shares is what she calls pleasurable deprivation. Now, I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but stick with me here. Think about the last time you were really, truly hungry. Not just I could eat hungry, but legitimately empty stomach, been too busy to eat all day hungry. Remember how incredible that first bite of food tasted? Even if it was just a simple sandwich, it probably tasted like the best thing you'd ever eaten. That's pleasurable deprivation in action. When we have everything all the time, nothing feels special anymore. It's like how Christmas morning felt magical when you were 7, but now Amazon Prime has basically turned every day into Christmas morning, and somehow it's boring. Raser-Rowland argues that by voluntarily choosing to go without certain things, we actually make the things we do have feel more precious, more enjoyable, more alive. I'm not going to lie, this part made me stop and think about my own habits. How many streaming services am I paying for that I barely use? How many times have I ordered takeout not because I was craving something specific, but just because I was too tired to think about cooking? There's this weird way we've convinced ourselves that convenience equals happiness, but what if it's actually the opposite? The second major insight from this book hit me even harder. Raser-Rowland talks about what she calls gratification timing. Most of us have been trained to want everything right now. Instant gratification is basically the American way, right? But she suggests that some of life's greatest pleasures come from the anticipation, the waiting, the slow build-up to something good. Here's a perfect example. Remember planning a vacation when you were younger? Half the fun was in the planning itself, researching where to go, imagining what you'd do, counting down the days. Now we can book a flight and be somewhere tropical by tomorrow afternoon, but somehow vacations don't feel as magical as they used to. The anticipation was part of the pleasure, and we've optimized it away. This applies to everything from saving up for something you really want instead of putting it on a credit card to planning a special meal instead of just ordering whatever sounds good in the moment. The waiting doesn't diminish the pleasure, it amplifies it. And the crazy part is, this approach often costs way less money while delivering way more satisfaction. Hey, if you're getting value from these summaries and want to help us keep going, you can support us in a few simple ways. Subscribe, join as a member, or grab the book using our affiliate link below. And if you're feeling generous, you can even leave a tip via the thanks button available on the video. Every bit helps us bring more like this.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. Raser-Rowland introduces this concept she calls skills stacking for pleasure. Instead of buying your way into hobbies and interests, you develop skills that create their own rewards. Think about it. When you learn to cook, you're not just saving money on restaurants, you're creating this whole universe of flavors and techniques and possibilities. When you learn to garden, you're not just growing food, you're connecting with seasons and weather and the weird miracle of seeds turning into dinner. I started thinking about my own life and realized how many of my best memories involve things that cost almost nothing, but required some kind of skill or attention. Late-night conversations with friends, hiking trails I'd never explored before, figuring out how to fix something that was broken instead of just replacing it. There's this satisfaction that comes from using your hands and your brain to create something or solve something that no amount of shopping can replicate. But here's what I love most about Raser-Rowland's approach. She's not anti-pleasure, she's pro-pleasure. She's not telling you to live like a monk or feel guilty about wanting nice things. She's saying that if you really want to feel good, if you really want to enjoy your life, you need to be more intentional about how you pursue that feeling. The book talks about something she calls conscious luxury. This is where you occasionally splurge on something that brings you genuine joy, but you do it mindfully. Maybe instead of buying coffee out every single day, you invest in really good coffee beans and a nice coffee maker, and you turn your morning coffee into this little ritual that you actually pay attention to and enjoy. You're spending less overall, but you're getting more pleasure from what you do spend. Or think about clothing. Instead of constantly buying cheap stuff that falls apart, you save up for a few pieces that you absolutely love, that fit well, that make you feel confident every time you wear them. You end up with less stuff, but more satisfaction. It's like the difference between eating a whole bag of stale chips because you're bored versus having one perfect piece of chocolate that you actually savor. The final piece that really stuck with me is how Raser-Rowland talks about community and connection. So much of what we spend money on is trying to fill a social need. We go to expensive bars to meet people, we buy stuff to signal our identity, we use shopping as entertainment when we're lonely. But the things that actually make us feel connected and fulfilled usually don't cost much. Potluck dinners with friends, pick-up basketball games, book clubs, volunteer work, learning something new with other people who are also learning. You ever notice how the best conversations happen when people aren't trying to impress each other, when you're just focused on the actual connection instead of the setting or the activity? That's what frugal hedonism is really about, cutting through all the expensive noise to find the stuff that actually makes life feel rich and meaningful. Look, I'm not saying you should never buy anything or that wanting nice things makes you shallow. Money is a tool, and tools should be used wisely. But what if we've been using this particular tool backwards? What if instead of spending money to try to buy happiness, we focused on finding happiness first and then spent money only on things that genuinely supported that happiness? The beautiful thing about this approach is that it's not about deprivation at all. It's about abundance, abundance of time, abundance of attention, abundance of genuine pleasure and satisfaction. When you're not constantly worried about money, when you're not constantly searching for the next purchase that's going to fix your mood, you have so much more energy for the things that actually matter. You have more space to notice what's already good in your life, more capacity to develop skills and relationships and experiences that keep giving back long after you've invested in them. This book isn't going to give you a magic formula for cutting your expenses in half overnight. What it will do is help you question some assumptions about what it means to live well, and maybe help you discover that the life you actually want might cost a lot less than you think. And in a world where we're all feeling the squeeze of inflation and student loans and rent that keeps going up, that feels like exactly the kind of wisdom we could all use a little more of.